Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you were well. What an amazing day today we saw from Micron. Not only throughout the day, but also we were waiting for those earnings after the market closed. And boy, what type of earnings did we see? We'll talk about that in the video. But today I want to talk about this new number of 430. Why is that the level of resistance for Micron? We pushed up against that number multiple times today and fought resistance. I'm going to show you the action of the stock throughout the day, talk about why that 430 level is so important, why the stock continues to bounce off that. And at the end, I'm going to give you my prediction for what I think moving forward. We had a big competitive update for Micron today as well, but what will that competitive update do? What will the Nvidia earnings do to the stock when we open the market tomorrow, and what we think it'll do by end of the week? Before we jump into all those topics, though, if you haven't done it already, hit like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you guys spending some time in this video. Let's jump in and take a look at the action today. I'm going to dive us over and just orient you to what we're seeing. So on the screen, you're going to see a chart that highlights the entire performance through today from market opening all the way to market close. And it's actually represented by an individual candle for every minute of action on the day. It's a lot of candles I can see, but I think we need it just to show what we saw today. And you remember in my video last night, I mentioned that there's two twin sisters. There's two big block trades that happened around the 418 level that pushed the stock down in the after hours. And we said that 418 is the new level of resistance. If we can open up over 418 and hold it, I think we're good. I mentioned also if we were open below 418 and couldn't get back to that level or higher by mid-morning, that I felt the stock was going to slide further. Well, good thing that this stock opened up today at 426. And it continued to go. If you take a look on your screen, you'll see that first big peak opened up at 426 and reached the high of 437. And then we hit the resistance, and you could see the stock dropped back down to that first kind of level. If you just follow that first peak down, right when it gathered itself again here, that was around 430, just about 431. The stock rallied back up to about 433, just about 434 share. And again, push down, face some resistance again. We hit down to this level of 429, rallied back up again, showed really strong support. As you can see now, I'm kind of on that third top of the day. That was reaching 434 again. And then we had a little bit more of a push down, actually reached the lowest level of the morning session. It hit about 426 overall. But the nice part is the stock rallied again, and we hit that 431 mark. The thing to notice is that the ceiling or the high got a little lower with each peak. So as we went up, kind of fought resistance, came down. We rose again, fought resistance, and came down. But again, stayed above that 430 level. That continues to be this level of resistance for the stock. So after we hit 431, then we went into this intraday just range of just consolidation, I would say. You could take a look at the RSI below, where we just stayed in this kind of up and down around the neutral level. So not a whole lot of support, not a lot of resistance, just staying in this 423 to 425 range. I'm good with that for Micron. That's a nice position from where we were yesterday, finding some really strong support at that floor level now of about 426, we'll call it on average. The stock wasn't crashing. The stock had a good performance today, up over 2.5%. Almost $11 on the day. The nice part was we did see some fall down to about 423, which was the low of the day, but then a nice rally back up to just over 430 a share. And that's the last peak you'll see. And then kind of came back and just stayed in that 428 to 429 range throughout the day. Guys, I think this is a really positive sign for the stock. Did we find a new floor around this 420, 426 range overall? We're going to look for that in tomorrow when the market opens overall. But solid performance. I think the Nvidia earnings that I'm going to jump to in a second will definitely help the stock. I also want to just jump over and show you one other thing. If I look on this page, because I think a couple things that jumped out. You can see the volume here that we saw, especially towards the end of the day. There was a little bit of and you can see that under the candles on this graph, right towards the bottom with the timestamps, a little bit of volume exhaustion today with Micron. So it was actually mentioned that it was about 29% lower volume today on average. And so this suggests that 430 level of resistance that we saw wasn't a sell-off. It was just, honestly, probably a lack of a breakout volume for the day. Kind of people waiting. I think they were waiting to anticipate to see what the Nvidia news was going to be, how it would help the stock, what was going to be mentioned around HBM4, who Nvidia was going to partner with. Was there anything else that Jensen was going to give in forward guidance that could help the stock? So I think although the stock performed well today, which it did over 2.5%, that 430 level now has become kind of the ceiling that we need to push through. One of the reasons that I think is, and you can see it on your page here, if you just look to the right of the graph on MU's scorecard, first of all, the company health you see is great. The technical analysis, if I go down to strong buy, but there's a cut right above that. I think the fair value piece is what's holding us back a little bit with Micron. You can see the fair value price they have listed here, and this is on investing.com, is 384.29. And so that's about 10%. You can see almost 10.5% below where the stock is trading today. This level, this fair price creates a bit of anxiety, a valuation anxiety, I would say, with investors, where they're hesitant to push above the 430. Despite the massive AI tailwinds we saw, they just looking at how the stock is priced where we are. And I think their fear is that how much of the AI premium is already baked into the stock, how much of the good news is already baked into the stock. And so we see that every time it gets up to that 430 range, there's concerns that people cautious are worried that the stock is overextended in the short term and it's causing a bit of a pullback and it's causing some profit taking overall. Question is, can we push through that 430 level? Will we finally be able to get through there tomorrow? Good news is I think there is a reason we will be able to, and I'll get into the moment. It was a massive event after the market closed. Like you probably know what I'm going to mention in a moment. But let's first talk about what else happened today in general that I think had an impact on the sector overall. The biggest piece, I'm going to give you all the details and breakdown, is definitely the Nvidia results. So I think there was people positioning themselves and waiting for that results to come out. The volatility we saw around 430 today with Micron was a little bit of traders hedging their bets one way or the other before these results were released. Just staying in that kind of level of support that we saw throughout the day, staying there waiting for these earnings to be released and any news that could be related to Micron. I also think that we did hear on a competitive front that SK Hynix has announced they're starting their commercial production of their 5th generation DRAM. And this is a huge signal to the market that the AI memory arms race, we'll call it, is going to accelerate. The other piece I think that is holding investors back is the March 18th date that it was announced yesterday for Micron. They're having their earnings call, obviously. So I think there's investors that are just waiting and they're holding their positions in anticipation. That earnings is about 3 weeks. It's coming pretty close to us. So I think we will see that having that concrete date on the books now allows institutional investors to begin building positions, which provides the floor of support, which we saw a little bit of today, and keeps the stock from crashing after hitting the resistance. So is it going to bounce from 430 back to that 426, or are we going to break through tomorrow? And I think the breakthrough will be the Nvidia results. And boy, did we see some positive Nvidia results today. So about 4 o'clock Eastern today, Nvidia announced that they didn't just beat their earnings, they shattered them. I'm going to give you some context for some of the other numbers, because I know you saw my video where I put 67 billion or bust, and they outbeat it. I talked about a bullish sentiment I had, like they had to beat 67. They had to give guidance that was over 75 billion for the next quarter, and they did all of that. It was an amazing print for Nvidia. So they had a massive beat, as we talked about. They reported 68 billion in revenue, just over. So it was 68.1. They were 73% year over year growth. Their data center revenue, as I mentioned, was 62.3%, driven by the exponential demand that we've seen in the AI build out of the AI infrastructure. Their guidance for next quarter, 78 billion, significantly higher than analysts were modeling. And it has massive importance for Micron. So there's a few things that jumped out. That first of all, Jensen mentioned that the demand is strengthening and that the Blackwell chip is seeing exceptional demand. And since we know that Micron is one of the premium customers for NVIDIA for their GPUs, that this is a massive push or a massive kind of positive sentiment overall for the stock. The other piece that Jensen mentioned was the growth or the push into agentic AI. He mentioned today that this is the memory sector for tomorrow overall. The agentic AI inflection point has arrived, he mentioned in his earnings call. And so this requires, you guys know, agentic AI requires even more real-time data and processing than standard LLMs. And this shifts the narrative for Micron from selling chips for servers to selling the essential requirements, the essential oxygen, we'll say, for the next generation software. And then finally, Jensen, he did confirm the supply constraints, pushing that there's a supply shortage. That narrative will continue to give pricing power overall for the memory players. So tomorrow morning, what do I expect to see based on what we saw today, which is a really 2.6%, over almost 11% growth. We saw some of the announcements for, in the market, Nvidia's performance and how they're showing demand not only on the build out, but the demand for memory, the agentic AI piece, the supply constraints, which give pricing power to wrap all of that up. I think we should expect to see a gap up tomorrow at the morning opening bell for Micron. I think if we open above 437, it was the day, remember, we finished today about 429. If we can bounce and break through that 430 barrier that we saw, 437, because we hit 436 yesterday as the high. If we can break through that and get to about 437, we could trigger a gamma squeeze in the market where short sellers and the call writers, and we did see a lot of calls written today for the 430 level, 430 strike price for Micron. We could see a gamma squeeze between those short sellers and the call writers where they have to buy back shares, catapulting the price even further. So I think we have to see now, will 430 be the new floor for us tomorrow? If we see a dip, I expect the buyers to jump back in and push it back up over 430 based on everything we saw today. What was the ceiling, I think, could potentially become the floor for Micron tomorrow. And if that's the case in the short term and the momentum holds that we've talked about, we are looking for, as I mentioned a couple of days ago, the pathway or the door to open for a fabulous 450 run for Micron this week or next. That battle of 430, that resistance of 430 that I said at the beginning of the video, we may win that battle tomorrow. But the AI supercycle, according to Jensen's results, is just the beginning. Micron is no longer going to be seen, in my opinion, as a cyclical commodity stock. It's an AI growth engine. So keep our eyes on the volume tomorrow. Remember, we saw that volume that was just sluggish throughout the day. If we see some big volume spikes and growth, that will tell us everything we need to know about the strength of this breakout moving forward. If Micron can open above 437 and break through that 430 resistance we talked about, that will become the support level. Great day overall today, guys. Great news for the sector. Nvidia is going to lift all of us with those outstanding results. Let's keep pushing forward in this stock. And remember, not a financial advisor. This is just my opinion on the stock based on the analysis and what I'm seeing in the market. So make sure you do your own research. Make sure this stock is the right fit for you. It fits within your risk tolerance. But good day overall. Let's keep it going. Take care, guys.